Things are complicated in the education world, as you all know. You've got this policy role that I think is very visionary and long-term, and you're thinking about where we ought to go. And I think a lot of the day-to-day work that our local superintendents and others face is very acute. So I'll start with the federal government issues right now. We continue to see U.S. Department of Education make this complicated transformation at the direction of the White House, which is to get smaller immediately through lots of cuts, but simultaneously get bigger in terms of their incursion into states' rights. So all the issues that we see today on the policy side are very much around executive orders trying to be translated as law. And you see states, Michigan, Maine, Massachusetts, Washington, California, lots of us saying the president's will is not law and his executive orders don't have the power of law, particularly if they're in violation of federal law, or at many cases when they're in violation of state law. So California just got a ruling yesterday where the U.S. Department of Ed said California is in violation of Title IX due to their inclusion of transgender athletes and their use of facilities based on gender identity instead of sex at birth. California will not sign any agreement. We talked with them yesterday, but they're the latest example of a state that's saying, you just got to change the federal law and we'll comply, or you got to get a federal court to say that we're out of bounds and we'll comply, or you got to get our legislature to change our laws in California and we'll comply. But we can't voluntarily sign an agreement with the U.S. Department of Ed that's going to put our state directly in violation of law. That's where California is at now. It's exactly where we're going to be, just to be super clear. We are one of the 3 states under investigation for Title IX violations, according to the department, because they keep contrasting our state laws and gender protections with the president's executive order, where by executive order, he tries to say there's only 2 sexes and it's sex at birth. It's a controversial issue, I think, in terms of how we view our world, and I respect that deeply. It's not actually a controversial issue by construct of law. Our organization and yours has to follow state law. Our state law is really clear. And I think what's going to be equally complicated in the coming months on this is that our legislature just doubled down on our. They passed legislation this year that said we affirm that we see gender protections as paramount, right along with other protected class folks, and they give our office a little more authority. When we see a school board or an executive in a local school system sort of willfully non-complying with the law. So we'll be continuing to pursue those investigations as we move forward. So that's one example on the federal level. The budget is the other place where they're cutting the U.S. Department of Ed. They're trying to move loans, as you know, and the loan portfolio over to revenue, and they're trying to move all things investigations out of U.S. Ed and hand them over to Department of Justice. And we see them sort of dismantling the department without any legal authority from Congress. And I don't think Congress will step in. They're going to let them take a pretty loose interpretation of how the work gets done. And it's only if Congress has approved budgets and then the department refuses to do the work that it's going to be maybe a little bit of an issue. But at this point, we've tried to be as very transparent as we can, and appreciate Randy sending our weekly information out to you all and our memos to the field. We're going to face big cuts across the country in education. The budget moving through the U.S. House is now getting reconciled with the U.S. Senate. The president will sign it undoubtedly late summer, early fall. It's going to make large cuts to Title II. So think professional development, migrant, bilingual, English language learners, after-school programs, anything that isn't high poverty, special ed, or meals is definitely going to get hammered in this budget.